Okay, so we're going to finish up class. Sorry about that. We are working on a way to make sure that in the future, I'll have Zoom host controls. So hopefully this won't happen again. But this is the rest of the class. Unfortunately, it does work out that the rest of the class was me. There's a phrase called the sage in the stage. It's just me talking at you. So we're just going to finish up class that way. So just to reiterate what we've gone over is we've gone over a direct informative message. So direct just means people have some reasonable idea what's coming at them. Usually it does mean that that's the class emailing me. Usually it does mean that, kind of like with the assignment. I know these memos are coming because I assigned it to you. And we'll talk about in future classes the indirect message, where we're going towards a stranger essentially. And this is an informative message, so you're not trying to get me to do something. And we'll talk about persuasive messages where I'm trying to get you to do a thing, but we do still want to offer some analysis when we are talking about things. And these usually goodwill messages. So someone new to the building, we want to establish a good relationship, request, responses, letter formats, and that's going to be the big thing. So we have our informative and our letter formats. And these direct informative messages tend to be positive or neutral. Okay, we are going to work on and talk about a little bit later when the news is bad, and we're going to call that our feedback sandwich. We've been talking about sandwiches a lot this class, so you might even be glad to step away and grab a sandwich and then watch this video later on. We talked about writing that perfect paragraph, the body, so how to use that roadmap to create the heading and sections. We're going to talk a little bit about the conclusion. So the conclusion should just be a short paragraph. You're going to start off with a summary. So if we go back to our cat example, we're going to talk about, and you can say to summarize, usually try to find another way, at least I prefer, of just saying the same way, but just to wrap up. Or this report discussed, almost repeating your roadmap again, discuss these sections, just to reiterate and to close out. Your next sentence is either going to be what we call a next step. So if you're sending me your direct informative, do you need me to respond? Do we need to get a conversation? Next step can even be as simple as, and this is what I always, contact information. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me at phone number or email address. I'm going to mention something really quickly about email addresses as well. And this, as you go into your careers, you want to have a professional email. Usually just like first letter of your name, last name, something very plain and simple. Gmail, I would probably say, is the best way to go. So if you don't have something, like if it refers to your dog or your cat or anything, just first, last name kind of a thing. Your school email is good to use. That's a safe way to go, or any organization you work with, but like Party Hopper 1020 or things like that, you don't want to have. So, Gmail is a great resource. It's free. Make sure you just have a presentable email, maybe even one specifically for more professional outings, and use the Raver Girl 922 for your friends. You want to offer a brief analysis. So if what you're talking about is like really bad or good, or I do suggest we go forward with this plan. Reinforce your value. Reinforce your value is always good. You're almost reiterating your introductory paragraph. You're just using it more, voicing it a little bit more to close it out. Just as a reminder, I'm a Jackson Galaxy certified. I've done this for 20 years and seen that every business that we hired cats at, profits went up. So this is where you would ask me any questions. Feel free to email me any questions or use the Calendly link to set up an appointment with me. If you are emailing me a question, especially for this week, just with what happened, put in whether or not I can share that question with the class. These may be questions, and I'll do another video later if there's a lot of questions to help out, kind of a Q&A, just so that your classmates, it's one of those, everyone's probably thinking the same thing, but no one will say it. So if you do have questions, feel free to bring it up and let me know if it's okay to include it in a video. Just, I'm not likely to put your name, or if you want, this is from me, to be in the video, let me know. So we're gonna wrap up, kind of sort of, talking about meetings. And this, this both applies to the teams you're going to be working with in this class, as well as the workplace, and just some suggestions for navigating that environment. So tips: have an agenda. So if you're going to meet for a project, and I think we're doing individual projects until the end of the probationary period. After that, it's going to be team oriented. So have an agenda. We are going to discuss this and this and this. And oh yeah, I forgot, we need to have this. Just to have that roadmap. It's okay to socialize. I would just suggest that you set a time for socialization. Everyone's busy. Everyone has different things they have to take care of in their life. And this is really in regards to the teamwork you're going to be doing for this class. If the plan is to meet from 9 to 11 to get work done, maybe include a message saying, hey, but I'll be on at 8:30 if everyone wants to chat, or hey, I'm going to this restaurant afterwards if you want to get together and grab a meal. There's nothing wrong with socialization. Just don't allow it to cloud the agenda. Again, keep in mind what your teammates' personalities and communication styles are, because they may be, they may be very friendly and social, but just approach work a different way. And so socialization might be just a different component that they're not really looking to be a part of. So there's this thing we call a pre-meeting, and I love them because it makes meetings more efficient. So a lot of times we'll show up to a meeting, we just start throwing out ideas, and brainstorming sessions are great, but they usually have a specific purpose. I'm talking more when someone brings up an idea and people start chiming in, but the idea is pretty much already set. So if you have, let's say, 2 members that are going to do a particular task and they're the experts, they should meet before there's a meeting, including everybody. Let them hammer out the details, especially if the rest of the team, and I'm thinking more like in a workplace. So let's say you have 20 members on a team, but 2 members are the only ones working on it. Let the 2 members work on it. And then when they come to meet with the 20, they have a solid framework. So then the questions are more useful and can help guide the project. It's not just people asking questions on things that have already been answered or already been implemented. And that flows into have a purpose. So having a meeting just to have a meeting is not a good, it's not a good time. I actually love a 3-hour meeting, but I love having a purpose to it. So if the purpose is to sit around and eat cupcakes, sit around and eat cupcakes. But if you were planning an event and everything's already taken care of, send an email and say, hey, we don't need this meeting. If you have any questions, just email me. Have a purpose. Try a new platform. And this is really talking about for this class. We've been using Zoom. Hop onto Google Meets. Hop onto, I think I'm trying Gather Town right now, which is, it makes it so it looks like an old Legend of Zelda. So you run to little meeting rooms where different people are at. So instead of doing the breakout rooms in Zoom, you would just move your character to certain areas. It's to get used to what is best for you and your group and your purpose. So there's plenty of platforms, paid, unpaid, WebEx, and usually there's a free trial. So just look around. There's a lot of different platforms. they all kind of work and not work in their own right and in their own way. Just try them so they get used to them. There will be a point where you just kind of have to have all of them to accomplish anything. And there's even times, and I've done this, where Zoom doesn't work, so we hop on to Google, so that doesn't work. So we hop on the WebEx, so that doesn't work. And we're just bouncing around. So we hop on to Teams, and having familiarity with all those different ones just kind of makes it easier for you. So you're not scrambling, looking for buttons. You're familiar, you know where everything is. Very important thing, decide who and how the decisions will be made. Is it one person just saying this is what we're going to do? Are we going to vote? Is it whoever gets the assignment done first? That's what we're going with. The who and how decisions are made will save a lot of conflict later on, just because you at least have a familiarity of who's going to do what, who's going to make those decisions. Not everyone's a decision maker. So, and that's why I put different personalities, or try to put different personalities on the teams, so you can see. And so one of the purposes of having these teams, and even the teams with the same personalities, see how the same personalities interact with each other, see how different personalities interact with each other. I've mentioned this in class. I'm a driver. Drivers have a tendency to kind of be obnoxious, absolute decision makers. I have learned to adjust that so I can work with different teams. And that's the hope with all of you as well, that you recognize who you are, but you also recognize and put into action how to interact with others so you can reach your goals. All right. So tips for our encoder. Remember, our encoder is the person sending the message. Voice your purpose. And this is assuming this is the meeting leader. Today, we're going to talk about actually say these things, spell out the purpose. The most important thing we talk about today is emphasize the key takeaways. If there's one thing I want you to remember, and that's creating the roadmaps. So 1, 2, 3, these are the things we're going to talk about. And these are all fine, especially like in an agenda, to write down so that everyone knows and it's very clear about what the purpose is. Introduce new topics to change, or else a lot of times, especially like in a workplace meeting with 20 people, you can stay on the same topic all day. Gently move people along. Let's move on to, and let people know you're done. In summary, we decided. That way people know what needs to be done, what they need to do. And it signals, hey, we're done. Let's move on. If you want to socialize, that's a different thing, but let everybody else go. I've been in many a meeting when we're just looking at that clock and it's 5 and someone's talking and it's 5:15. I'm supposed to be home by now. Move them along. Let them know. In summary, we decided to, or let's move on to. Now, as a listener, it often happens. So like in large meetings, you don't want to paraphrase. Generally a head nod, just to let you know. But in one-on-one meetings, we're going to work on this a lot next week on paraphrasing, but just letting people in the meeting know what's going on. I will say, as a little trick, because there have been meetings I don't want to be in, I have no interest in, serve no purpose. Little trick is someone says something. So, hey, I think we need to move little Johnny to room 210. To follow right directly after and going, yes, Johnny moved to room 210 sounds a great idea. And it shows that I'm part of. Oftentimes I get credit for getting the idea. I know, not the best, maybe not the best thing to be teaching, but in actual practice, it comes in handy when you are in that situation you don't want to be in. Use active listening with everyone. And we mentioned it last class. We'll go over it more next class. But remember, even if you're having a conversation with one other person, there may be other people involved, or that person may convey to other people your attitude or your lack of concern for being involved. So always use your active listening skills. These are also things that don't not only work in the workplace, but also work in personal lives. All right. All these rules still apply to Zoom. You still need you still need to listen. And I know it's super, super hard. If I wasn't teaching this class and I was listening, I cannot say that I wouldn't be looking around at other things. So try to do more active listening, less responding to emails, less watching cat videos. It requires effort. At least it does on my part. But that you can tell when people do or do not pay attention. So just keep that in mind. Hold everyone accountable. So if so-and-so says they're going to complete the task, make sure they complete the task. Do not hesitate to remind them, but also explicitly assign the task. So don't just say, hey, we need to get the paper done. What paper? What do you define as being done? Am I turning this in? Are you turning it in? So yes, you need to hold other people accountable, but you also need to let people specifically know what it is you're holding them accountable to and for. So along with that, provide feedback. The best plan is to plan to be early. So if a report is due on Friday, maybe Wednesday it should be due. That way everyone could read it over and provide feedback, not only for content, but okay, maybe not everyone's going to be the best writer. And so maybe the best use of someone's time, maybe they're a really great researcher. Hey, why don't you do the research on this? I'm not a great researcher, but whatever you come up with and write notes on, I can make sound really great. That is my skill. Researching is also my skill. So provide feedback. And sometimes that feedback, it's not as easy as, hey, you did a great job. So we're going to talk about giving difficulty feedback. We're going to continue that sandwich theme. And so we're going to talk about giving difficult feedback and how to deliver it. And we're going to call that a feedback sandwich. See, there's a purpose for the sandwich. It's just not a random sandwich. All right. So I wasn't planning on giving this in this format, so I'm just going to scoot my head over. So we're going to align, approach, give the news, realign, and add flair. So that's your bread, this alignment. Your approach is the lettuce, cheese, tomato. Giving the news is the meat. Realign is the bread. And adding flair is the condiments. Essentially, we're going to buffer the bad news, give the bad news, try to recover from the bad news. And that's going to be our sandwich. In recent years, there are a lot of papers and teachers saying how bad the feedback sandwich is. They say you should buffer the news, give the news, and realign, which is the exact same thing. So I don't get it. Sometimes in academics, we just like to say our idea is better than the other person's, even though it's the same idea. And we will talk a little bit more about the feedback sandwich, especially next class. You will be writing a breakup letter. And so this is, the feedback sandwich is an example of a direct informative. It's just direct informative with a negative approach, and we approach it in this way. So for example, if we were to deliver bad news, and it'd be more detailed than this, but just to use it, and I have my can of coffee with me, and you can't see it. There it is. Let's hold it. Love this coffee. So as an example, let's say there's no more coffee. I'm very sad. So first you would start off by buffering. Hey, I know how much you love that coffee. That coffee is really good. Have you ever thought about that other coffee? It's equally as good. I like it. Have you tried it? By the way, La Colombe does not have coffee in stock, so I cannot order that for you. But remember, Dunkin' Donuts is good. Let's go grab a cup of Dunkin' Donuts. So kind of set up the situation with some positivity, break the bad news, try to recover. And we'll talk about that more, and you'll demonstrate that next class, just to give you a heads up. All right, just a few more slides here. So how can you be a better team member in the workplace? You can socialize new members. So if you've been at somewhere and you've been at somewhere longer than someone else, so let's say you started on Tuesday and someone new is starting on Wednesday, you still have the ability to kind of show them a little bit more than they know because they're just walking in. So just being kind to people when they're in that awkward situation of I'm new. Be aware of the different personality and communication styles. So this is why we keep having you take these personality tests and these communication tests, just so you can be aware that your way is not the only way. Now, as a driver and someone who tends to think that their way is the only way, it's not always easy, but we try and we embrace diversity. So people come from different backgrounds, culturally, just lived experience, countries, just even in the sandwich, hearing about the sandwiches that people have come up with. I hear the diversity in sandwich making. We have those who don't eat sandwiches because of, they're vegan or they add something that I didn't think, but like adding coriander. And so people do not have the same experience as you. If you want to ever hear a long diatribe on common sense, I'd be more than happy to share with you how common sense does not exist. And that's not being people don't have it. Common sense doesn't exist, but that's up to you if you want a long lecture. Know your role. So if you are that person who just started a day ago, maybe you walking into the boss's office and putting your feet up on their desk, not the best move. So just know your place, know your strengths. So what you're good at, what maybe you shouldn't when they offer, hey, I need someone to program this computer and you don't know programming, don't raise your hand. Be open to feedback. So if you happen to be on that other side of that feedback sandwich, be open that maybe what's being said is done for your own good. How can we grow and change unless we make adjustments in our own life and we accept the feedback coming to you? Always improve your communication. And I've mentioned this in class. I am still learning as I'm writing, as I'm speaking. I learn new things every day. Just keep that open attitude that what you're learning in this class or ever is not the absolute truth. You have to be flexible. You have to adjust communication styles as things are happening in the world. Communication styles change. If you would have said, hey, we need a class in sending emails 40 years ago, they would have said, huh? So be aware that the world changes. We have to change with it and develop your active listening skills. As we talked about today, people like hearing in their letters you. They like to think that things are about them. Well, to make things about them, we have to listen. And listening does help us reach goals because we're paying attention. And so they're very important. So specifically for your team projects, everything we just talked about in the workplace, and discuss your owner's manual and your communication styles with your teammates. Do not assume, even with the personality test, if you say, oh, I'm a driver, this is what I like. Don't assume that, but let your teammates know the nuances of how you like to be treated and operate. And even, with the story of the K, if you're like that, say, hey, sometimes I say things quickly because I want to get the job done now. I don't mean to offend you. It's just sometimes when the paper is due in 15 minutes, I just concentrate on the task. Be on time. Everyone's busy. Everyone has things to do. So be very respectful of everyone's time. I personally try to be early. It just makes me feel more comfortable, even just for myself. I'd rather be early than late. There's a phrase that I try to operate by, and life happens, so it's not always possible, but being 30 minutes early is being 30 minutes late. So just be on time, be respectful, and build that brand of I'm always on time. So when you're not, people aren't complaining about you, they're concerned about you. So being on time is one of the strongest indications of your work ethic. And don't overpromise. So if there's an assignment due on Saturday and you have your daughter's birthday on Saturday, don't say, hey, don't worry about it, I'm going to do it all. You have your daughter's birthday to do. Bring up that you have your daughter's birthday and that you could use help. You're on a team. Use the good aspects of teamwork, because there's some less awesome teamwork aspects. Use the good aspects of teamwork to your benefit. All right. So also in your syllabus are some Simon Sinek videos. I am a huge Simon Sinek fan. I don't know if we'll necessarily watch more of his videos for this class. If you have extra time, search Simon Sinek why. That is not only a great application for marketing, but just general writing and just life, to know your why. This is not that video, but it does offer some great information. He's kind of this midway point of, feel good guru and business. So he tends to meld those together. There is a textbook reading. I know, very textbooky. We should be the only one. It is a longer chapter. Feel free to bring it up. There will be questions on the quiz from it on, I believe, week 3. It's also open book. Just give it a read. It's good to know some of the academic jargon as well as stuff we actually put into action. You do have an assignment. You have quiz 2 due, as well as your informative email. So quiz 2 is linked in the syllabus. It's technically due Saturday at 11:59. However, if I wake up Sunday morning and it's there, but when I'm having my coffee, because that's when I'm likely to grade it, that's going to be okay. More so, though, try to get the quiz in earlier because it is time-stamped and all that beautiful stuff. More so, though, the informative email. And just as a reminder, that is going to be the message you prepared last week during class. You're going to convert that into a direct informative memo for me, exactly like we went over in class. You are going to email that to me as an attachment, which means you need to write an additional paragraph in the actual email. And we went over that. Dear Derek, the memo you requested is attached. Something else that you want to say after that? Thank you for the most amazing class ever. I'd be nothing without you. Thank you so much. Sincerely, so-and-so. Something to that effect, not necessarily exactly that. All right. Other than that, email me your questions, set up an appointment in Calendly if you need further elucidation. There's your fancy word for the day. And just go out, enjoy your week. Saturday, turn in things on time, and I will see you next Thursday. And hopefully we don't have issues. It'll be a lot of teamwork next week. So be prepared for that, as well as a lot of videos before we go into the break. I'm going to record, if we were to meet on that time, a couple of lectures for you to watch during your time. So look at it as an opportunity if things with the family are getting a bit much. You can say, hey, I have homework. Bye. And with that, bye. I'll go answer that email. Have a good one.